The podcast you are about to listen to contains at least one of the following: strong language, disturbing topics, abusive opinions, generally things that aren't appropriate for little kids or overly sensitive people. So, if any of that stuff's going to get your nose out of joint, this is your chance to turn it off. Welcome to I Had to Say It, the podcast where I talk about things that I feel need talking about, and sometimes they're not getting the attention they deserve. And your feelings, they're not under consideration.
Well, hello there. My name is CJ, and I am the host of Talkin Shiz podcast, a podcast that is a comedy podcast that has everything you're looking for. Well, maybe not everything you're looking for, but if you're looking for something different, definitely stop on by. My podcast can be found on any podcast platform. I talk about movies, strangest stories on the internet, music. There's a little about everything, kind of pop culture-ish. So if you're looking for something different, definitely stop on by the Talkin Shiz podcast, and I will see you on the next episode.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of I Had to Say It. This week we are going to be talking about some stuff that is on my mind just like every fucking week. I am not going to belabor everything that is going on in Ukraine and the general shit show that is American international relations right now, because frankly, there's enough people out there talking about it. I'm kind of tired of hearing about it. I'm tired of thinking about it. It's an absolute shit show, but it does kind of tie into what I'm actually going to talk about today, whenever you're listening to this. It's evening when I'm recording it, but that's neither here nor there. Point being, so yeah, we all know what's going on over in Europe is an utter shit show. Russia is saying their behavior is justified for whatever reason they're saying. The Ukrainian people are getting fucked over. They are being attacked. Now, I'm already starting to get worked up. Forgive me. Here's one of the things about what I primarily want to talk to today is the matter of the way people are, in spite of a absolutely horrid track record, particularly in the last couple of years, of mass media, popular media, mainstream media, however you want to look at it, media news outlets, media news sources proving they are completely untrustworthy and utter pieces of propagandist garbage. People are real quick in the United States to jump on board with these people are the victims and these people are the bad guys. One of the problems in this country really is everybody wants to paint things in these really broad strokes of black and white, good and evil, right and wrong. And there are certain things where that is applicable. If you hurt other people, if you commit sexual assault, if you do anything of a sexual nature to a child, you're fucking evil. That's not a shades of gray kind of thing. There's not shades of where it's okay to do that shit. That is an absolute, because you are causing lasting, permanent physical and mental damage to another human being to gratify your own self-interests. And if you try and justify that, fuck you, you go in the wood chipper too. I have no use for people like that. I have no use for sympathizers of that. I have no use for people who try and commandeer legitimate issues and make them to try and justify their shitty, fucked up behavior towards their fellow human beings. Now, that being said, there is very few people in the United States who have an unbiased, unfiltered source of information about what's going on between the Ukraine and Russia. Now, I happen to know a couple people that literally are from the Ukraine, literally have family members that are still there trying to evacuate the country right now. I trust their word about what's going on over there. And even then, I look at it with the perspective of that's from their perspective of things, and that's from them being worried about their family. And I do not think Russia was justified in attacking the Ukraine. I do not think any military action like that was necessary. However, that's not where I'm not defending Putin or saying anything he did was fucking right, because it wasn't. What I am taking issue with is the way people in this country want to act like, and there's memes about it and there's jokes about it, where it's, oh, well, I'm done being a vaccine expert. Now I'm going to be an international affairs expert. The simple fact of the matter is there are way too many overly opinionated fuckheads in this country who want to start screaming like they know the answer. We can't control our shit here. We don't need to be worried about interfering in other countries' affairs. And the utter lack of critical thinking that the average person in this country is showing these days is driving me absolutely fucking bug shit. The echo chambers and if you listen to the last episode with Jake the Hater and I talking, or the Tailgater, or just plain old Jake, however you want to talk to him, depending on how you're feeling. Jake's good people. But we were talking about it, and there's all this like virtue signaling and just like, oh, look at me, I put a Ukrainian flag on my profile picture, I'm helping. No, you're a fucktard. The simple fact of the matter is, very few people in this country are informed enough to have a legitimate opinion on it. Just like 95% of everything else that these people get really stringently, ardently vocal about. They don't have the proper information to make an actual informed decision. They get their talking points from whatever party they choose to follow, left, right, whatever. Even, literally any established party. Even the libertarians have their Kool-Aid that they drink, and they're probably the people I can tolerate the most. I mean, not the actual party people, but the political ideas behind it are the ones I'm probably most closely aligned with these days. I don't believe in big government. I don't believe that these assholes who can't balance a budget should be getting paid. And another infuriating thing is apparently it's very important that Congress makes sure that their staff is taken care of. So in this massive omnibus bill that they're proposing, and that's going to hike up the debt ceiling even further and fuck the general people over even more, they're making sure all their support staff gets a raise, gets cost of living increases, making sure they're taken care of at the expense of literally everybody else in the fucking country that is suffering due to the massive amount of inflation and economic depression that is going on because these assholes are terrible with money. They cannot budget worth a fuck. They cannot separate their own interests from the job they are actually supposed to be doing. The fact that we allowed it to get to the point where becoming a politician is a career was a massive fucking mistake on the part of this country. And it just proves that we don't look at history, because every time in history that an empire or a government gets to that point, it starts to collapse. There is a reason the United States is falling apart, and it's because we allowed this shit to happen. We deviated from some pretty sound founding principles and allowed these fuckheads to make a career out of fucking the general population. They take from us, they give nothing back, and they are terrible at their goddamn jobs. But they're the only people in this country that are consistently getting raises that are keeping them at a comfortable level of living, especially with the current economic situation. And the current economic situation is one of the things that people are spouting off about left and right, like they're all these goddamn massive financial experts, and they're not. The average person on the street has barely enough economic understanding to balance a fucking checkbook, much less to speak on larger concepts as to why the economy's in the toilet, or why gas is going up to $6-7 in some places per gallon. And a lot of the rest of the world doesn't have a lot of sympathy for us in those matters, because if you look at it, gas is a lot more expensive in other places than it is here. I'm not saying that makes it okay, because those other places are countries that are smaller than some of our states. So they have a different scale and a different perspective. And again, those are other countries. They're not my purview. They're not my problem. I don't fucking care. That's on them. The United States needs to go back to minding its own business and minding its own borders and worrying about its own problems first. But instead of thinking in terms of that, we have all these people on both sides of the aisle that are handing out proclamations based on how they think the world should be run, based on their personal beliefs. People who don't know them, don't like them, don't have any interest in their opinions, are being judged by these pricks loudly and very staunchly, like, oh, we know what's best for you. This is why you should be outraged. That is why you should be outraged. And realistically, these are the same people that want to fight over stupid little petty shit here that doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, and make all of our lives that much less cool because they want to regulate their beliefs and force their beliefs on every fucking body else. And it's just being applied in a much grander scale to the rest of the world. And I'm listening to these people, and it's driving me nuts. It really is. Okay, it may not be a drive. It may be more of a putt at this point. Might be a little imbalanced. Who fucking knows? I I can't be too sane. I come and sit in front of a microphone every week and talk to myself and under the illusion that somebody's listening. But, yeah, so I've been thinking about this, and it's amazing how fast the brakes went on all the bullshit that was going on here as soon as this whole issue started. And almost immediately, mainstream media is trying to hang every problem in this country on what is going on in the Ukraine and with Russia. And there are going to be some genuine, legitimate issues coming down the pipe because of this shit if we don't get some kind of resolution in the next few weeks. But the ripple effect is going to be shit that's going to go wrong for the next 3 months to a year is going to be blamed on this conflict. And there's going to be that extended period of blame after the fact. And some of it will be legitimate. A lot of it will be fucking gaslighting and blaming and blame shifting and saying, oh, well, it's not our fault that we can't do our fucking jobs. It's because of this out here. That's beyond our control. We want to act like we control everything. Everybody that is in the business of being a politician right now has two significant skills: shifting all the blame and taking all the fucking credit, whether they deserve the credit or not, and whether or not they should be holding the blame. It's the only universal truth in this fucking country anymore. There is nobody out there that is willing to own up and take responsibility and say, yeah, we fucked up. Yeah, we spend trillions of dollars every year, and we're not bringing all that money into taxes. We're putting it out where your kids and your grandkids and their kids are going to be paying for it. Because we are irresponsible fuckheads and we suck at our jobs. And we can't do anything that is something we promised the people that gave us these jobs without making sure a bunch of our own bullshit's tied into it. Without hooking up all these pork belly projects and just, oh, yeah, no, we can't pass this bill to give us reasonably priced insulin unless it's attached to my agenda to push whatever it is, say, some new colory, some kind of arrangement they're making with a new color. Yeah, and, you know, it's and looking away from things like destroying our independence on foreign power and oil and things like that, because it's not like it's part of a push to try and put an unrealistic agenda in there and say, oh, well, we're going to switch over to this because this is the end-all, be-all. And that's what's right because we said so. And let's, shove to the side and neglect all these other alternative fuel sources and things like that. Like, when's the last time you heard somebody talking about hydrogen cell energy? Hydrogen cell energy is clean. The byproduct of it is water vapor. When's the last time you heard somebody was working on developing a more reliable hydrocell fuel cell? You don't hear about it because hydrogen's dangerous. Hydrogen needs to be handled properly. Then again, so is fucking everything else. But, you can have a hydrogen cell engine. They were working on them at one point, and then, depending on which conspiracy theory you believe, it either was too dangerous or big fossil fuel companies buried the projects or the inventor was taken out by the CIA. There's all kinds of shit going on out there in terms of why we're not using or even looking into viable alternative energy sources. The worthless, brain-damaged fucks that are in Washington, D.C. and in local, state, all the levels of professional career politicians, they have hitched their donkey to, we need electric vehicles, we need to build these giant turbines that only generate so much electricity, and when they break down, there's nothing you can fucking do with the parts, so they become landfill scrap. And the batteries from all these electric vehicles, the natural rare earth elements to create them are hard to come by. Getting them out of the earth is fucking horribly destructive. A mining facility that strip mines and pulls out all the lithium for these batteries is a huge scar upon the earth, basically forever. And when the batteries are no longer viable as capacity, they are toxic fucking waste that we don't actually have a significant safe way of disposing of, so they become more poison for the fucking planet. But it's a green initiative because we ain't burning them fossil fuels, and that's what's important. Now, When the world's leading manufacturer of electric vehicles says the United States needs to reestablish energy independence without cutting out fossil fuels, that should fucking tell you something. Elon Musk, the guy who stands to gain the most from selling electric vehicles, has said that this shit is ridiculous. And that's one of the few things I actually like about the guy. I don't agree with a lot of things he says. He may be the smartest guy in a lot of rooms. He comes up with some brilliant stuff. He's got some great ideas. He's a great businessman. He's made a killing, but he's a fucking weirdo. And I don't mean that in any kind of negative way. I'm a fucking weirdo. I love fucking weirdos. Weirdos make the world interesting. If everybody was vanilla, it would be boring as shit. But I don't know if he's somebody I could hang out with. I'd give it a shot. It'd be interesting to pick his brain for a little while, but I don't know if he's my kind of people that I would kick it with. You know? I can't see myself sitting out on a porch or on a bonfire smoking a Cohiba and fucking drinking a glass of bourbon with the guy. I don't know. And who knows, maybe, Elon, if you're listening, bless you, sir, get me some listeners. I'm not going to ask for a handout, but, pump the show a little bit, will you? Come on by the house. We'll have a bonfire. I'll pour you a nice glass of cheap-ass bourbon. You can see how the poor folks live. But, yeah. So, back to my main point. All these people that are just... And even to a certain extent, because, the shit going on between Russia and Ukraine it's a shitty situation. Now, one of the things a lot of the mainstream media is pushing is, the Soviet army is firing on civilians. They're not firing on the ones that are fleeing. They're not firing on the ones that are running. They're firing on the ones that showed more stones than anybody in this country has in a while and picked up guns to defend their homes. And I don't know how, and I know a lot of people say you're always picking on the left. That's where more of the behaviors that I can't deal with right now are coming from. There's plenty of people on the radical right that I can't fucking stand either, particularly the religiously fundamental people. I mean, I don't have anything opposed to religion in and of itself. I think it's great that people have things to help them develop a moral compass. I have a problem with you trying to force it on other people, just like anything else you're trying to force on other people. However, they're not the ones being snagged up in all this hypocritical bullshit that I'm seeing out of the left. The radical left, the ones who were in here constantly screaming about you don't need a gun to, we want to talk about Sleepy fucking Joe talking about you shouldn't need more than a double-barrel shotgun. You fire that bad boy in the air and the robber will run off. Not likely, Joe. That just shows what a fucking tool bag you are, because you fire a couple blasts out of a double-barrel shotgun, you got to reload that motherfucker. And if the guy that's in your house is paying any attention at all and knows you just emptied your fucking load without, actually hitting him, he knows now you're being rearmed, and he knows where you are, you fucking idiot. So you basically just gave him a target. If he's committed, he's going to come kill you while you're trying to fucking reload your break-action double-barrel shotgun. Moron. But I digress. I'm not here to pick on Brandon and that poor shambling idiot. I feel bad actually blaming that prick for anything that's happened in the last 2 years, because he probably doesn't know where he fucking is. He's a fucking dementia patient. He is not possessing his facilities. He is not cognizant of his actions. The guy can barely string together a fucking sentence. Now, that's not to say he hasn't been an evil parasitic sack of shit for the last 60 fucking years, because he has. This is a career politician who made a living for longer than I've been alive by telling people what they want to hear, manipulating the emotions of the left, and basically being a sack of shit that delivers it in such a way that people keep letting it slide. The ultra-liberal bullshit agenda that he's been pushing since before people can remember, he put in some of the most horrifically draconian drug and legal statutes into place that were on record, and somehow people are still going, it's not his fault. He authored the fucking crime bill that put so many minority people in jail in the first fucking place. And then he goes and tells you, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. Well, motherfucker, what kind of racist shit is that to say? Telling somebody if they don't do what you say, they don't qualify as what they believe they are? That is some ignorant shit. And people will just give them a pass and let it slide. And God, I can't process how people can be so goddamn gullible. And then in the last State of the Union address, this asshole literally came out contradicted his own campaign speeches, contradicted what his party has been saying the entire time that the Cheeto was in fucking office, when they were out there screaming about defund the police, and now he's there, we don't need to defund the police, we need to fund the police. This asshole's entire State of the Union speech, and I know I'm a little late to the party, the State of the Union was a couple of weeks ago, it all ties back into this whole, why are people still believing this shit in spite of the evidence of their own eyes? Contrary to what you can see, the results you can see, and why do they just jump on board this bandwagon? I don't get it. Other than the fact that there are so many people that have so much of themselves invested and tied up in that identity that they claimed, and they got on that because they thought they were right somehow. The people that are now saying that even though, they canceled all the vaccine mandates and the mask mandates, you should still do them because, now the science isn't saying what they want. I've literally seen social media posts saying just because they said you don't have to wear a mask anymore doesn't mean you shouldn't. Well, no, the science came out. The people who keep saying trust the science. The science finally, it's been out for quite a while now, saying that the masks were fucking useless and they were basically window dressing and virtue signaling. But that science isn't okay. That's not the science you're supposed to trust. That's no. That is political agenda. No, that is shit that's been out there for months. It's just you guys refused to acknowledge it before, and you're still refusing to acknowledge it. Just now you're trying to whitewash it by saying, oh no, now they're just doing it to pander. No, all the mandates and the masks and all this other bullshit was useless a year ago. It's not a new situation. It's not a change in the science. It's the truth was finally forced into the light, and there's a whole lot of backpedaling and a whole lot of bullshit coming out. And all the bullshit that the left is trying to say is their new official stance and their new party line, and this is what needs to go on. It's because they realized they way overswung. They overplayed their hand. They overstepped their position. And all the middle of the road, all the moderates, even some of the more moderate Democrats are fed up with the shit. They're tired of the lies. They're tired of being manipulated. And they know that as things stand, there's a real solid probability they're going to lose the midterm elections in sweeping massive numbers because people are tired of this shit. They pushed it farther than they could get away with, and it's going to come back and bite them in the ass. So now they have to backpedal, and now they have to make up excuses. And they do things like blaming the inflation that's been going on for the last 8 fucking months. If you take 30 seconds out of your day and you look up just simple line graphs showing inflation for the last year, 12 months, 12 fiscal months, not calendar year, that's only 2 months or 3 months at this point. Go back 12 months and you look at that little line, and it's not like it's flat. It's not like it was going down. It's been going up steadily for over 8 months. That was way before any of the shit in the Ukraine started, but people are real quick to try and blame everything on that. 2.5 years ago, I filled up my tank on my little bucket car that I drive because it's a little car and it gets great gas mileage. And I filled it up and it cost me maybe $20. Maybe. I filled up Friday. It cost me $39.75 and I had a quarter tank of gas when I started filling it up. That's less than 2 years. The gas has doubled in less than 2 years. And you want to try and blame that on a conflict that happened 3 weeks ago? And the disconnect is so real and so prevalent that, yes, that's exactly what people are doing. They're blaming the current situation on the new boogeyman, the Ukrainian conflict. That's the new bad guy. That's the new big bad. The whole thing about it is people are so eager to blame an outside force for shit that they should just be knuckling under and taking the responsibility for. Decisions they made, people they elected and put into power that are fucking them over. And rather than admitting that they made a bad choice and are getting fucked, they're going to ride the Titanic down saying, oh no, this is okay, it's just a little water. Meanwhile, the rest of us are either fighting for the lifeboats or a lot of us have just hit the point where the band played on. We're out there tuning up our fucking violins and shit because we know this shit's going down and we're just trying to do the best we can for ourselves and our families. And I've said it before. I'm just going to say real quick, in out, quick mention. If you want to do that, you got to diversify your income. You have to get more worth out of yourself, out of what you have available. You have to start working at it. You have to start doing something. You have to start becoming your own master of doing things. You're not going to get anywhere waiting for somebody to come along and save you. Get an idea. It doesn't matter how little it is. If you've got the time, go drive some Uber, deliver Uber Eats, DoorDash, whatever you got to do. There are there's ride shares out there. There's car shares out there. There is you go on Fiverr and find a side hustle. You got an extra 2 or 3 hours. Instead of sitting around bitching and swiping on TikTok all goddamn night, spend 2 or 3 hours. If you're good at typing, if you're good at grammar, you're good at editing, be a copy editor. Do something. Get your shit together. Start developing a little independence. And the reason I'm saying this is not only because I want people to do better. I want to see people succeed. I want to succeed. I want to do better. I would love if I could start monetizing the show and actually getting people to buy the shitty merch I have so I can afford to get better merch so I can sell you guys cooler shit. I have great ideas, but I'm not much of an artist. I'm just saying, the stuff I design looks like I designed it. I'd love to be able to hire somebody to do it, but this is a hobby. Until I start getting some return on investment, it's a hobby. So you get what I can give you. And I get these cool ideas. And if anybody happens to be an amazing artist that listens to this show and wants to do some artwork and see if I'll turn it into something, by all means, fan art would be awesome. It'll go on the Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff, to say the least. And if it's really cool, and maybe it'll wind up on a mug or something. I don't know. But the point is, I think people, like I said, not only are we, this is a two-pronged thing, because economically we're kind of fucked, and realistically, people have way too much time that not only are they not using it productively, but it actually is compounding the problem, because they sit around and they put themselves into these social media echo chambers, and it tells them what they want to hear, and they need something to distract them. They need to get the fuck out of that, because it's making the situation worse. And it makes people easier to manipulate. It makes people more prone to doing shit that is ultimately going against their own self-interests. And maybe if they weren't sitting around looking at all these stupid TikTok trends all day and trying to get viral and get famous for nothing, and they're out there actually doing something. And like I said, there is a ton of gig work out there. People are trying to get back to normal, but it's part of the problem is nobody wants to go back to fucking work. And there are way too many people that think that their time is worth more than it is. And I said this in a tweet a couple of days ago, and I'm going to say it again here, because this is something I honestly believe. Maybe instead of sitting around bitching that you're not getting $15 an hour for flipping burgers or running a cash register, and being mad that think the minimum wage needs to go up, that's not going to make anybody's lot better. I mean, I'm not a fiscal expert by any means, but I know enough to know the companies aren't going to eat it to give you more money. What they're going to do is they're going to raise their prices. Because that's cost of doing business. If you get into having your own business, you'll start to understand these things a little better. So that's another reason to go out and try and make yourself a little side hustle. It will help you understand how things work in the bigger fucking scheme of things. It will help you wrap your mind around these concepts a little better. Now, the general consensus is the powers that be are not going to encourage us, because that mentality is dangerous for them. That gets people thinking and looking at things a little more critically and making them realize what is being done to them. So yeah, don't get mad that the companies don't want to give you $15 an hour. Get mad that the government is taxing you to the point that what you are getting is not something you can live on. That's what you should be upset about. $750, $850, that would be enough for a single person that's young and has no dependents to support themselves just fine. If 40 to 60% of your tax check was not being taken out to go to governments. And not only do we pay taxes directly out of our payroll, where, we're not working for us, we're working for them. They're taking that money in spite of the fact that they really don't fucking deserve it, and they're not doing anything to benefit us with it. They benefit themselves with it. They have their little pet projects. And the trillions of dollars that are owed to us from other countries that we give foreign aid to without any expectation of being repaid. We just give money away to other countries because, oh, well, they need help. Well, motherfucker, we need help. You want to, I defy any politician, write a check out of your own fucking pocket if you want to help people so bad. You shouldn't be telling me where my money should be going. So how about we be mad at them instead? How about we be mad at an organization that has consistently proven they cannot operate within their means? But it doesn't affect them because it's not actually their means, it's our means. And they take a little bit more and a little bit more. And that's just the direct money that you see immediately. That's the money that people are screaming about. The money where they're saying, well, this isn't a living wage, I need more money. That is only the real obvious tax. That's where they're taking your money and you see it and it hurts. But instead of getting upset about that, you just say, well, I need more so what they take doesn't hurt so bad. No, they need to take less. Because if you earn more, they're going to take more. That's real. That's like 101. I've known that since I was a kid. The more you make, the more they take. That was like something we said jokingly when I was a teenager, like, oh yeah, I can't wait to be making $7.50 an hour. But yeah, once you make it in the next tax bracket, that money basically just goes to the government. You're working the same or harder for basically the same money, even though you're supposedly getting paid more because the state and the federal government take more. So it's kind of I don't understand why people aren't getting mad at where the ire should be directed. But beyond that, like I said, that's the obvious tax. That's the one that stands out and is glaring to people like me, at least, where it's going, why are you taking all my money and giving it to your projects that I don't agree with and I don't have any say in the matter? They're stealing from you. And yes, taxation is theft. I firmly believe that because they're taking from you without your consent, they're saying that's the cost of having a job is they get their cut. And they're going to take it whether you like it or not. If you don't take it, if you don't give it to them, you go to jail. You get penalized because they deserve it. They're entitled to it somehow. Now, again, they don't perform their job in anything that would, in the real world, get them a raise. In most cases, they wouldn't get to keep their jobs. They'd be terminated. If any one of these fuckheads worked for me, they would have been fired if they performed the manner they do as sitting congresspeople and senators and politicians in general. Not a damn one of them would keep their job if I was their boss. And, we just shrug it off like that's the way it is. That's the way it has to be. No, it's fucking not. You want your standard of living to go up, tell them to get their fucking hands out of your wallet. Now, beyond that, there's more of an invisible tax on things, and that's inflation. The more money, and inflation can be laid more at the feet of the Fed, but again, I'm not a financial expert. I'm not going to go into all this shit and try and explain things because I will fuck it up. And then on the off chance somebody that actually knows what they're talking about listens to the show, I'm going to look like a jackass. So I'm going to say it this way. Find somebody who actually does understand how this shit works and talk to them. Do yourself a favor. But the general gist of it is all this inflation comes about because the Fed just keeps printing money out of thin air, which devalues the money that's already in circulation. And therefore, your money's worth less, and it's being taxed through that. And then on top of that, you buy something, you pay sales tax. You buy groceries, you pay sales tax. You buy property, you have to pay property tax every year on the land that you bought. And more or less, it's the federal government telling you, or the local government, state government, whichever government agency that you're talking to about your taxes, depending on if you're living in a township or you're rural or yada, yada, yada. They're basically telling you that even though you bought that land and you paid for that land, you're just kind of leasing it, because if they don't get their cut, and it's not like it's just with land taxes and property taxes, it's actually worse because it's not like they're just taxing you while you're paying for it. It's not a sales tax. It's a tax that you have for owning that every fucking year. Because you bought something, you paid for it, and it's yours, supposedly, they need to get paid every year for it. They didn't own the land. It didn't belong to them first. If it was a private transaction, you bought it from another private individual who paid taxes on the money you paid for them that was already taxed before it came into your hands. That is theft too. It's a ridiculous hustle, and we allow it to happen because somewhere along the line they sold us this lie that we needed them. And enough people are out there saying, yeah, you know what, they're right. We do need this. We do need that. And particularly when people are saying things like, well, we wouldn't have roads, we wouldn't have utilities. The fuck we wouldn't. A lot of this tax structure did not exist 100 years ago. Or maybe 200 years ago now. We're getting later. Again, this is not my area of expertise, but I know federal income tax was a relatively recent development in terms of our government. And as soon as it became an established thing, it became an abused thing. And once upon a time, when the government actually was meant to run this country in favor of this country, it was the people that were put in political office had real jobs. They had other options because being in office was considered a service. It was not something you were doing to make a career out of it. And it's gotten so ridiculously out of fucking hand. And we can fix it. I mean, I don't want to be negative. I don't want to look at things. I don't expect, some magic Deus Ex Machina to come along and save us. I do not expect some grand thing to come along and unite the world. I mean, I like to hope that there's still a chance we could turn things around and take our fucking country back. I honestly don't believe that we could do any voting at this point, but if enough people were willing to stand up and go, you know what? You're fucking wrong. That's all there is to it. We're not playing this game anymore because it's bullshit. If you were working at someplace and they treated you the way the government treats you, you'd fucking quit. If you were in a relationship with somebody that treated you the way the government treats you, everybody around you would be telling you it was an abusive relationship and you needed to get the fuck out of it, or at least anybody that cared about you. Why is it different when assholes that are paid from our paychecks, from our wallets, from our banks, why is it different when people that are supposed to be serving us, but instead are trying to rule us and dictate to us and tell us how we have to live our lives and what we can and can't do? And they're not doing it based on any divine providence. They've done literally nothing to prove they're any better than anybody else. 90% of these assholes are either there because they've been there for as long as most people can remember, or because they're related to the right people, or because they got backing from the right people. It's not any kind of merit. It's not because they're good at what they do, because obviously they're fucking not in terms of what they're supposed to be doing. They are good at what they do. They're really good at covering their own asses and watching their own self-interest. And somehow convincing the people, the majority of people, that's how it's supposed to be. That's how it has to be. That's how it's always been. That's how it's always going to be, because that's how it is. It doesn't have to be that way. It hasn't always been that way. They've done really sweeping, impressive shit to try and force everyone into believing it's always been that way. A lot of people like to reference the book 1984, but there's a real simple thing out of that book that everyone seems to have forgotten. And it's a real simple concept where they say, well, no, now we're at war with them, and we've always been at war with them, and we always will be at war with them, even though 6 months ago it was different. There's always going to be some big boogeyman that they're protecting us from. There's always going to be something that they seem to think they're trying to save us from. Meanwhile, the dollar's collapsing. Our future is being mortgaged. Our grandkids are going to be in fucking debt unless they find a way to just completely shove that out the window. And I'm sure they could do that, but it's going to be through massive fucking inflation. And honestly, before I forget about it, because I see I'm running kind of long here and I want to wrap this up. When they started talking about a digital currency operated by the U.S., a digital dollar, that is a horrible, horrible fucking idea for so many reasons. Not the least of which being they've proven to be completely fucking incompetent when it comes to managing money. But these people should not have that kind of control over your wealth and your worth. They want to take away solid real-world assets and make everything... and it's another step to... And as much as the conspiracy theorists aren't necessarily the ones I want to be echoing, it's another step towards social credit scores. Oh, you didn't agree with this, so you don't have access to your money for a week. That'll teach you to have your fucking own opinions, your own thoughts. There was a time where I would have said that was fucking ridiculous, but it's not beyond the realm of possibility. I have no trouble seeing the current power structure doing exactly fucking that to get their way. And realistically, it's the same reason I have a problem with the idea of healthcare for all or socialized medicine, however you want to look at it, in the United States as it stands. Because I don't trust those people to handle things that relate to my health and well-being. That is literally the only reason. I don't think universal healthcare should be a thing as long as it's run by those incompetent assholes. I'm all for everyone being able to get the help and the medicine and the well-being that they need in their lives. I want people to live their best lives. I want people to be happy and healthy and successful. And we all have a different measure for success, and we all have a different measure for happiness. But I want people to be happy and to be successful and healthy, and to at least have the same opportunities as everybody else. I don't think everyone should get the same results. That's where I diverge from the people who are like, oh, well, you're so... No, motherfucker. Fairness and equality relates to opportunity, not the end result. And I don't want people that don't understand that fucking concept making my decisions for me. I don't want people, just because they're the loudest, to have authority over me because I think they're fucking idiots and I don't agree with what they want to do. That's realistically, that's the big takeaway I have for this week is start doing things to better your own situation. Stop worrying about trying to fix the fucking world. It's never going to happen. They're never going to let you do it. Focus on small things. Take care of yourself. Take care of you and yours. Do what you can to ensure you have a better life. And yeah, it sounds selfish. You know why? Because it is selfish. Because if you're fucked over, you can't do anything for anybody else. As long as you're miserable and malcontent and your life is not something that's worth fighting for and not something that's worth dealing with, you're fucking useless to everyone else. A lot of the most altruistic shit I've seen out of people in the last few years has come from people that have made a point of taking care of themselves and their families first. Because once you don't have to worry about those things anymore, then you're in a better position to start helping other people and to start taking care of other people. And there are a lot of things out there. There are a lot of resources out there. I've mentioned some of them before. They are out there. You need to start capitalizing them. You need to take care of yourself because nobody's going to fucking do it for you. This is not a movie. You're not the main character. In most people's games, you're not even an NPC. You're fucking the little background sprite that walks across the screen and doesn't even get a line. So you need to realize there's not some grand scheme that's coming to save you. There's not some overarching thing that is going to make everything better for everybody. You got to take care of yourself. You got to do for you. And realistically, I don't know how many times I can say it. There's a lot of things I don't touch on these shows because I feel like I've already said it and people don't want to hear me repeating the same shit over and over again. But the problem is the things that are driving me nuts, the things that are carrying weight on my shoulders are the same things. And I talk about them and it makes me feel better for a little bit. And then it comes back because the same shit is still going on. The same stupidity is still happening. We're not getting better. We're not doing better. We're getting worse. We're being worse. And I have found people out there that are doing better. They're doing better by themselves. They're doing better for other people because they have put themselves in a position to be better for themselves. And once they get that, they start paying it forward or spreading it around, however you want to look at it. And those are the kind of people I'm choosing to align myself with and the kind of values I want to have. And I really I hope the people that need to hear this hear it and it sinks in and we start doing better and we start being better. And then we can be good to each other. And for now, that's what I had to say. Thanks for listening to another episode of I Had to Say It. If you liked what you heard, leave a review, give us a follow, give me some feedback. And if you didn't like what you heard, leave a review, give me a follow, give me some feedback. I'll try and fix it. Check us out on all the social media platforms at I Had to Say It Podcast is the trigger for all that stuff, for the search term. And if you want, check out the website, www.ihadtosayitpodcast.com. There's links to people that have been involved with the program, things I've talked about. There are some links available for some merch that we're working on, and there are ways to contact us there as well. And thanks for listening, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.